December 9th, 2026, 23:47 local time. The Persian Gulf, approximately 38 nautical miles northeast of Bahrain and 19 nautical miles southwest of the Iranian island of Qeshm. The night is moonless. The air temperature is 24 degrees Celsius, cool by Gulf standards, with a light northwesterly wind at 7 knots and a sea state of 1, barely a ripple on the surface. Visibility is 14 nautical miles. The kind of night where everything looks clear and navigational confidence comes easily. An Arleigh Burke flight, 3 guided missile destroyer, is conducting a routine transit northeast, heading toward a station-keeping position in the northern Gulf as part of a persistent presence rotation. The ship has been underway from Bahrain for 4 hours and 21 minutes. The watch team is into its second hour of the night transit rotation. The Combat Information Center is manned at standard sea detail. The bridge team is navigating by the book. GPS primary, chart plotter secondary, radar cross-check every 6 minutes as per standing orders. The GPS position on the bridge chart plotter shows the ship centered in the deep water channel, 6.2 nautical miles from the nearest charted hazard. A shallow bank that extends southwest from the Qeshm coastline, marked on every nautical chart of the region with the standard caution notation. Depths of 4 to 8 meters, unsuitable for deep draft navigation. The GPS is lying. Welcome. I'm your host at Navy Legends, and tonight we are examining a threat that does not announce itself with a radar return, generates no infrared signature, and cannot be intercepted by any missile in the US Navy's inventory. Tonight, we examine the weaponization of trust. The precise, technically sophisticated exploitation of the one system that every modern warship uses constantly and questions almost never. GPS spoofing, not jamming, which cuts the signal and immediately alerts the crew. Spoofing, feeding the ship's navigation systems a false but entirely plausible signal that the receivers accept without complaint, displaying a position that is accurate in every technical sense and wrong in every operational one. This is a fictional simulation built from documented IRGC electronic warfare capabilities, real GPS vulnerability research, and the operational geography of the Persian Gulf. Let's begin. The IRGC, Electronic Warfare Command, had been developing its GPS spoofing capability since 2011, when Iranian forces guided a US RQ-170 Sentinel surveillance drone to a controlled landing inside Iranian territory using precisely this technique. That operation, confirmed by multiple intelligence assessments and never officially refuted, demonstrated that GPS spoofing at the platform level was achievable with equipment that was, even in 2011, within the technical reach of a well-funded state military program. In the 15 years since, the program had been substantially refined. The system employed on December 9th was designated internally as AFTAB-4, Sun 4, a 4th-generation GPS spoofing array consisting of 6 coordinated ground-based transmitter stations on the Qeshm Island coastline and 2 nearby uninhabited islands. The array had been calibrated over 7 weeks of preparatory operation, transmitting at power levels below the threshold that US electronic warfare monitoring would flag as anomalous. AFTAB-4 did not simply overpower genuine GPS satellite signals, a crude approach that produces detectable anomalies. Instead, it used coherent false signal injection, receiving genuine GPS signals, introducing precise phase delays and Doppler corrections, then retransmitting modified signals at a power level just sufficient to dominate the genuine signal at the ship's antenna. The result was a GPS position fix that was internally consistent. All satellite geometry checks passed, dilution of precision values were normal, signal strength indicators nominal. But that placed the ship 4.3 nautical miles northeast of its actual position. 4.3 nautical miles northeast. In the geography of the northern Persian Gulf transit corridor, that displacement moved the ship's displayed position from the center of the deep water channel to a position that appeared safe on the chart, while the ship's actual position was moving progressively toward the shallow bank extending from the Qeshm coastline. The spoofing signal activated at 23:31, 16 minutes before our timestamp. The transition from genuine GPS to spoofed GPS was not instantaneous. The AFTAB 4 system introduced the displacement gradually, 0.3 nautical miles per minute of false drift, so that the position change on the chart plotter appeared as normal navigational progress, rather than a sudden jump that might alert an attentive watch officer. Over 16 minutes, the displayed position had drifted 4.3 miles northeast of reality, while the ship continued its actual course. The chart plotter showed the ship comfortably in deep water. The radar, operating in relative mode for collision avoidance, showed surface contacts at their correct relative bearings and ranges. The radar does not use GPS for its basic target display. The inconsistency between the GPS-derived absolute position and the radar-derived relative picture was present but subtle, detectable only by a watch officer who was actively cross-correlating radar land returns against the chart and comparing the result with the GPS position. The officer of the deck was not performing that cross-correlation at 2347. It was not in the watch routine at that point in the transit. It would have been performed at the next scheduled radar navigation fix. 6 minutes later, at 2353. At 2347, the destroyer's actual position was 1.8 nautical miles from the edge of the shallow bank. At 14 knots, that was 7 minutes and 42 seconds of remaining navigation time before the ship entered water too shallow for its draft. At 2347.14, the IRGC Coastal Defense Battery on Qeshm Island, a C-802 anti-ship missile battery that had been in position since 2200, pre-targeted on the GPS-corrected track the spoofed navigation would produce, activated its fire control radar. The destroyer's AN/SLQ-32 electronic warfare system detected the C-802 fire control radar immediately. The EW operator called it at 2347.21. Bridge, EW. C-802 fire control radar, bearing 047, signal strength high. Assess, we are being illuminated. The officer of the deck processed two simultaneous pieces of information. A fire control radar illuminating the ship from the northeast, from the direction of Qeshm Island, and the chart plotter showing the ship's position as 6.2 nautical miles from the nearest charted hazard. The fire control radar was alarming. The navigation picture was, as far as the OOD knew, safe. She did not yet know that the navigation picture was wrong. At 2347.44, the IRGC battery fired two of the C-802 missiles. The C-802 is an Iranian domestically produced anti-ship cruise missile, a refined variant of the Chinese C-802 design, with a range of 120 kilometers, a cruise speed of Mach 0.8, a sea-skimming terminal phase at 5 to 7 meters altitude, and a 165 kilogram semi-armor piercing warhead. It is not the most sophisticated anti-ship missile in the IRGC inventory. It is, however, reliable, well-proven, and in this engagement context, well-positioned. The two C-802s left their launchers on Qeshm at 2347.44 and dropped to sea-skimming altitude within 30 seconds, approaching the destroyer from bearing 047 degrees at Mach 0.8. The destroyer's SPY-6 radar acquired both contacts at 2348.02 at a range of 11.4 nautical miles, bearing 047, altitude 6 meters, speed Mach 0.81. The tactical action officer had been in the CIC since the EW alert and had the picture immediately. Vampire. Two inbound cruise missiles bearing 047, range 11 miles. Weapons free. Engage. 4. SM-2. Block 3B missiles left the VLS at 2348.19. 2 assigned to each inbound contact, fired at 2-second intervals from cells 4, 6, 10, and 12. The engagement sequence was textbook, the crew performing exactly as trained. At the same moment, the officer of the deck, responding to the tactical action officer's weapons, free call, and the general quarters alarm, ordered all ahead flank and began a hard turn to port, attempting to open the range from the bearing of the incoming missiles and present the ship's bow toward the threat. The turn to port was tactically reasonable. It was also, in the geography of the ship's actual position, catastrophically dangerous. A hard turn to port at 14 knots, in water that the chart plotter claimed was deep, but that was actually 1.8 nautical miles from a 5-meter bank, was directing the ship toward the hazard at an angle that would increase its closure rate with the bank. The acceleration to flank speed compounded the problem. At 23:48:31, 47 seconds after the IRGC battery fired, the destroyer's forward sonar dome, extending 4 meters below the keel, struck the leading edge of the shallow bank at a speed of 19 knots. The impact was not like a collision with another vessel. It was not a single sharp shock. It was a grinding, tearing deceleration. The sonar dome crumpled and separated in the first 0.4 seconds. And then the ship's keel began to ride up on the sloping bank as forward momentum drove it further into shallow water. The ship rose 1.2 meters by the stern and 0.8 meters at the bow as it grounded. Every standing crew member was thrown forward or sideways. Equipment racks shifted. Overhead panels fell. The main engineering plant tripped offline as sensors detected the abnormal hull stress loading and initiated automatic protective shutdown. The ship was aground in the Persian Gulf, 19 nautical miles from Qeshm Island, with 2 C-802 cruise missiles still inbound. The SM-2 engagement had not stopped. The tactical action officer, thrown against his console by the grounding impact, disoriented for 1.8 seconds, then back on the problem, confirmed all 4 SM-2s were still guiding. The SPY-6 radar, running on emergency power from the backup bus that had not tripped with the main plant, maintained its tracking picture. At 23:48:54, SM-2 Round 1 intercepted the first C-802 at a range of 6.1 nautical miles from the ship's position. The proximity detonation shredded the missile's airframe and warhead section. Confirmed, neutralized. At 23:48:57, SM-2 Round 2, the backup on the same track, had already been redirected by the Aegis engagement manager to the second inbound contact. It detonated 3.4 nautical miles from the grounded ship. Confirmed, neutralized. SM-2 Rounds 3 and 4 both engaged the second contact. Round 3 achieved a direct proximity detonation at 4.1 nautical miles. Round 4, arriving 1.9 seconds behind, flew through the debris field of the destroyed missile and self-destructed safely at 3.8 nautical miles. Both C-802 missiles were neutralized. No warhead reached the ship, but the ship was hard aground on a 5-meter bank in the northern Persian Gulf, 19 nautical miles from Iranian-controlled territory, with its main engineering plant offline, a destroyed sonar dome, unknown keel damage below the waterline, and a crew that was simultaneously managing an active damage assessment, restoring emergency power, and trying to understand what had just happened to their navigation picture. The commanding officer reached the bridge at 23:49:22, 51 seconds after the grounding. His first question to the officer of the deck was the navigator's question. Where are we, actually? The answer took 4 minutes and 11 seconds to establish with confidence. The electronic navigation officer, working from the ship's inertial navigation system, which does not use GPS and had been accumulating dead reckoning data throughout the transit, cross-referenced the INS position with radar ranges to 2 charted land features on Qeshm Island. The INS position placed the ship 4.2 nautical miles southwest of the GPS position. The radar ranging confirmed the INS position to within 0.15 nautical miles. The GPS was wrong, had been wrong for at least 20 minutes. The spoofing was identified at 23:53:33. The commanding officer broadcast the finding immediately on the formation tactical net and on the emergency guard frequency. All US and Allied vessels in the Northern Gulf were directed to immediately cross-check GPS positions against radar navigation fixes and INS data. Within 22 minutes, 3 additional vessels reported GPS position discrepancies, ranging from 0.8 to 3.1 nautical miles. All displaced in the same northeast direction, all consistent with the AFTAB-4 array's broadcast geometry. The AFTAB-4 spoofing system was still transmitting. An EA-18G Growler from the carrier air wing operating 180 miles southwest and diverted at 23:51, reached attack position at 0:34 on December 10th. Its AN/ALQ-99 jamming system suppressed the AFTAB 4 signal across the affected corridor within 90 seconds. GPS receivers throughout the northern Gulf snapped back to their genuine positions. The IRGC 802 battery had reloaded and attempted a second firing at 0011, 23 minutes after the first salvo, while the destroyer was still aground and the AFTAB 4 system was still operating. The second salvo of two C-802 missiles was engaged by a Ticonderoga-class cruiser that had been diverted from its station 67 nautical miles to the southwest at emergency flank speed upon receiving the grounding report. The cruiser's SM-2. Engagement neutralized both missiles at ranges of 14.2 and 11.7 nautical miles, respectively. Neither reached the grounded destroyer. At 0:41, a USN ocean-going tug departed Bahrain at maximum speed toward the grounded ship's position. Estimated arrival, 6 hours and 20 minutes. The damage assessment conducted over the following 90 minutes by the ship's engineering team established the scope of the grounding damage with increasing clarity and increasing gravity. The sonar dome was a total loss, structurally separated from the hull and lying on the bank bottom beneath the ship's bow. The keel had sustained significant structural deformation over a 22-meter section amidships, with 3 transverse frames cracked and 1 partially collapsed. The propeller shaft alignment on both shafts had shifted outside operational tolerances. Neither shaft could be safely run at power without risk of catastrophic seal failure and flooding. The ship was immobile on its own propulsion until drydock repair. Below the waterline, a hull survey conducted by Navy diver personnel, deployed from a support craft that reached the ship at 2:14, found 2 hull penetrations. Areas where the bank contact had driven rock and coral fragments through the outer hull plating. Neither penetration had breached the inner hull. The ship was not flooding, but the structural margin between its current state and flooding was assessed as uncomfortably thin. 6 personnel sustained injuries in the grounding impact. 2 with concussions from striking overhead equipment. 3 with lacerations from falling panel debris. 1 engineman with a dislocated shoulder sustained when the initial impact threw him across the engineering control console. All 6 were treated aboard ship. None required medical evacuation. The counterstrike authorization request reached Pacific Fleet Command at 0008, 21 minutes after the grounding, 24 minutes after the first C-802 salvo. The request covered 2 target sets: the C-802 battery on Qeshm Island and the AFTAB 4 GPS spoofing array, whose transmitter locations had been triangulated by the destroyer's SLQ-32 during the approach phase, and confirmed by the EA-18G's electronic attack geometry. Authorization was granted at 0:19, at 0 hours, 23 minutes, 44 seconds. 8B GM-109. Tomahawk Block 5 cruise missiles left the vertical launch cells of the Ticonderoga cruiser, and a second Arleigh Burke destroyer that had closed to within firing range from the south. 4 Tomahawks were targeted on the C-802 battery's confirmed position on Qeshm Island. 4 were targeted on the 3 primary AFTAB 4 transmitter sites, whose locations had been derived from the electronic characterization data. The Tomahawks reached Qeshm Island at 0:58, 35 minutes after launch. The C-802 battery was struck by 3 of 4 targeted missiles. The 4th Tomahawk's terminal guidance shifted to a secondary aim point when post-launch imagery confirmed that one of the 4 launcher vehicles had displaced from its primary position. The round impacted the displaced vehicle's last known position, destroying the vehicle's reload equipment, but not the launcher itself. 1 launcher survived. The 3 AFTAB 4 transmitter sites were struck simultaneously at 0 hours, 58 minutes, 44 seconds. 2 were destroyed comprehensively. The 3rd site, located on the smaller of the 2 uninhabited islands, was struck by 1 Tomahawk that impacted 34 meters from the transmitter array. The blast damaged but did not destroy the array's primary antenna structure. Partial spoofing capability from that site may have survived. At 1:14, The EA-18G crew reported that their monitoring of the Qeshm GPS frequencies showed no resumed AFTAB 4 transmission from any site. Either the surviving transmitter had been physically damaged enough to prevent operation, or the IRGC operators had chosen to cease transmission following the Tomahawk strikes. The GPS environment in the northern Persian Gulf was confirmed clean at 1:22. The stranded destroyer remained on the bank throughout the hours of darkness, her crew working damage control, maintaining communications, and tracking the surrounding maritime picture with the SPY-6 on emergency power. The ocean-going tug arrived at 6:44 and began the 3-hour procedure of calculating the optimal tow angle, attaching hawsers, and coordinating the pull with the ship's ballast management to minimize structural stress during refloating. The destroyer came free of the bank at 9:51 on December 10th, 10 hours and 4 minutes after grounding. She was towed to Bahrain under escort, arriving at 16:30. The drydock repair estimate assessed a minimum of 4 to 6 months before the ship would be operationally deployable. The investigation that followed, conducted jointly by Naval Criminal Investigative Service, the NSA's Cybersecurity Directorate, and a technical team from the Space and Naval Warfare Systems Command, produced findings that were classified at the TS/SCI level, but whose general conclusions were communicated to fleet commanders within 10 days of the incident. The AFTAB 4 system had been technically superior to any Iranian GPS spoofing capability previously assessed by US intelligence. Its coherent false signal injection technique was assessed as representing a significant advancement over the weakening approaches documented in earlier IRGC electronic warfare programs. The 0.3 nautical mile per minute drift rate, the gradual introduction of the false displacement, was specifically identified as a design choice, calibrated to remain below the threshold of anomaly detection by standard bridge watch procedures. The investigation identified 3 procedural and doctrinal failures that had created the conditions for the grounding. The first was GPS monoculture, over-reliance on a single navigation source during a transit in an electronically contested environment. The ship's INS had been operating throughout the transit. A cross-check between GPS and INS at any point in the 16 minutes between spoofing activation and the fire control radar alert would have revealed the 4.2 nautical mile discrepancy. That cross-check was not in the standard transit watch routine. The second was the absence of GPS anomaly detection software. Commercial maritime GPS receivers had incorporated spoofing detection algorithms since 2019. The military receiver in the ship's navigation system produced no real-time anomaly detection output that would have alarmed the bridge watch team. The third was the command response sequencing under simultaneous threats. No standing procedure existed for verifying navigation integrity when an EW contact was established in a GPS contested environment. A procedure that would have directed the quartermaster to immediately cross-check INS against GPS upon any EW contact in the Gulf. These failures were documented and corrective actions directed across the fleet within 21 days. The GPS INS cross-check procedure was incorporated into all US Navy bridge watch standing orders for Persian Gulf transits by January 15, 2027. The IRGC had achieved a result that no C-802 missile, no drone swarm, and no ballistic missile had achieved against a US Navy destroyer in decades of confrontation in the Gulf. They had grounded the ship. They had done it without a direct kinetic strike. They had done it with mathematics, with a precisely calibrated false signal, delivered at the right power level, at the right drift rate, at the right moment in the transit when navigational confidence was high and cross-checking was routine rather than vigilant. This is what Navy Legends exists to examine, in scenario after scenario. The threat that wins not by overpowering the defensive system, but by making the defensive system unnecessary. A destroyer that is aground is not a warship. It is an anchored target. It cannot maneuver. It cannot prosecute. It can only defend itself from a fixed position while its crew manages the damage and waits for the tug. The GPS constellation overhead, 31 operational satellites transmitting navigation signals that the entire modern world depends on. was not designed with the assumption that a sophisticated state adversary would invest decades in learning to mimic it precisely enough to deceive a warship's navigation suite. That assumption was always wrong. December 9th made it undeniably, expensively clear. The destroyer was repaired. The AFTAB 4 sites were rebuilt. Satellite imagery confirmed new construction at the Qeshm transmitter locations beginning in February 2027. The GPS anomaly detection software was expedited through procurement and fielded across the fleet by March. And somewhere in the IRGC Electronic Warfare Command, engineers are reviewing the engagement data, calculating what a 0.4 nautical mile per minute drift rate would look like against the new detection algorithms, and beginning the design of AFTAB 5. Stay informed. Stay vigilant. I'll see you in the next one.